So I just tried doing some recording for a different video. I was talking about social media, and with the way that YouTube allows for monetization and um, advertiser-friendly stuff, I just kept on going over a lot of things that can't really. They weren't advertiser-friendly. So, the summary of that video was that I'm not on social media because I think it's bad and it's toxic, too dramatic, and think that social media, it's a cancer to society. Some people might disagree with me on that. Some might not. Uh, and I challenge you to, if you are deeply, you use social media every day. You got the Instagram, you got the Facebook and Twitter, X, whatever. Uh, I've never, well, I have a Twitter account, but I've never really used it. I have like one post, maybe. But yeah, if you're like super into all the social media stuff and you've been wanting to, I've been kind of going back and forth on it, on whether you should or not, because like maybe you keep in touch with family using it. I challenge you to try to not use social media for just a week. That's it. And see how much more inner peace you have in your life. You might be surprised. It was something that I tried, and I because I was spending like 4 hours every day on Facebook, and I now that I don't spend 4 hours, and that was just on my phone, not the computer. Doom scrolling, all that. So now that I have 4 extra hours in my day, on average, 4 extra hours every day, yeah, I'm a lot more productive. I do a lot of things. And I've been off social media, like a daily kind of user, for probably about 4 or 5 years. Say about 5 years. And yeah, I feel like my life has definitely improved. I'm not missing out. Although and I mentioned this in my last video, the one thing I really do miss about being on social media was, well, two things. I was a bit of a troll, so like posting memes, people fighting. I think that's hilarious on Facebook. Yeah, these people just like freaking out over stupid stuff. um, Super funny, just to kind of poke. Uh, and I try and do it in more of like a comedic sense, not a to just kind of point out how ridiculous it is. Like, yo, you guys are fighting on Facebook. Like, this is pointless. And drama attached to it, all that stuff. So, anyway, yeah, this kind of switching up how I'm doing. I'm not having the game in the background, although I might do that again from time to time. I'm not sure. But I kind of like this format. Also because I kind of want to get into having other people on this. So like previous coworkers or just other people, just kind of talk to them about whatever stuff, life. Get to see a more human side of certain people. I think would be fun. Instead of like yeah, gosh, I don't know if I would ever interview a public official, but um, it's nice to see that people that are expected to be professional are actually human beings. Um, yeah, so might not always have a game going on in the background. Plus, it's easier to stay focused and engage with the audience here. And I actually am looking at the screen. I feel like I'm getting better with my eyes. Looking at the uh, camera. There we go. That's what it's called. Yeah. Something I wanted to talk about today was AI and which is probably controversial, but I feel like AI is something that we shouldn't necessarily be afraid of. Like AI itself, it's more so the application uh, of AI. So, for example, like jobs. That's a big one for me. I would say that I think a very large majority of the jobs here in the United States, or at least the Western developed world, um, that the majority of jobs are going to be replaced by AI. AI, robots, same sort of thing. Uh, I think I might have mentioned it in one of my previous videos. So like Pepsi, and at least totally fact check me on this. I'm just recalling from memory, but Pepsi, they want to have fully automated workforce from the beverage, product being bottled to all the way to the store. And so the first time that a human would actually interact with a Pepsi, just a bottle of their soda, pop, whatever, would be the first time that a human would interact with it would be at the store, so like at the gas station or like a Walmart, or whatever convenience store, supermarket you go to. And the first time that a human would be touching, physically touching any part of their product would be when the consumer is touching. The consumer basically would be the only one that touches it. Which there's a lot of positives behind that from a business standpoint. Quality, make sure that you can say, hey, we didn't have any errors because our automated system is all in place, and here's our checks and balances for making sure that our AI does what it needs to do. So every product is going to be pretty much the same. And like so damaged goods or something, that'll be eliminated. And then uh yeah, so from that side of it, I think it makes sense. Um but then also what's really bad is that, and you'd also have to also fact check me on this, but the majority of jobs held by men between the ages of 18 and 25, something like that, they're actually, I don't think it's 18. It's like 20 and 25 or something. But regardless of the point, or regardless of that, it's the majority of that age group. They're in trucking. They do drive the big rigs. They take product from A to B, from like a shipping yard to a distribution center, and then from a distribution center out to wherever it needs to go. So if we were to eliminate all of those jobs, you would have a hefty part of a generation that doesn't have a job, and that's a few million people, and replaced by AI. And then also like teachers, I can, especially with the rise of ChatGPT, I can easily see, which that's a very dangerous thing. But I can totally easily see teachers, so like professors, and even in like your normal grade school. So like my daughter, her all of her teachers, at least like the core classes, so like you got math, science, history, um, like reading, I guess. I don't know what you call it. English. When I was in high school and middle school and elementary, we called it English. It was just English, and uh, so we just learn how to English. Which there's still some things that, like the technicalities of sentences, stupid. Like there's grammar, but then it's like, who cares about the structure of a sentence? As long as you get the point across, that's what matters. um, but yeah, teachers will be replaced. Um, I could see every fast food job being replaced. You would just have like one or two technicians that, and maybe not even called a technician. You might have like one person that keeps the food stocked, fills up the machines or whatever, and then you'd have another person that just like make sure the machines, if it like malfunctions for whatever reason, like like a gear breaks in it or something. It's not quite swiveling the way it used to or something. Uh, so you'd have basically two people for like a your normal sized McDonald's. Uh, and so you'd have the customer come in. This is already a thing. Come in, place your own order, and then you sit at the table or you just wait at the counter. Then little robot or something brings your food to you. Um, you could do that for it'd be an investment up front, but it would companies aren't thinking in terms of like, oh, this year or something. When they're making decisions like that, they're going to be thinking 10, 20 years from now, especially companies like McDonald's or Wendy's or Taco Bell or fill in the blank fast food restaurant that have been around for 50 plus years. They're thinking about how can we maximize the profits over the next decade, kind of thing. So, yeah, fast food jobs. Like when my daughter gets old enough, she's got a couple more years until she can legally start working. But I think that when it's time for her to be in the workforce, there's going to be very little demand for human labor. And oh gosh, especially so another one too would be like taxi drivers. Because yeah, with if we're able to nail down that automated driving thing, automatic cars that could drive themselves. So I think we're a few years off of that still, but your Uber driver, taxi driver, whoever, that job can be replaced. Um, then if we go into like the more technical side, so like help desk at a company or whatever, whether it's Amazon or which they don't really have a call center. Well, they do, but it's gosh, you gotta dig for that number. Huh. Although Amazon is really awesome when it comes to returns because I can, and that Amazon is a perfect example of how AI is just going to replace the workforce. Um, because I can place a return, and the only time I have to interact with like a human that works for Amazon is when I take it down to the little store. Take it down to we have Kohl's. Yeah, we take it down to Kohl's, and they take it for us. Um, don't even need to put it in a box or anything. Just gotta bring your return receipt, and there you go. It's actually pretty cool. Saves a lot of time. But well, and then with Amazon also, like their warehouses, they, from my understanding, also have to fact check me on this, but my understanding, your Amazon or fulfillment center, I guess they call it, they have their people, humans, that put it, whatever it is, into a box. And I think even that is limited. But the actual keeping inventory, warehouse, that's all done 100% by robots, automation. And that's been going on for like probably a decade, if not more, which is super cool. To someone with a tech background, I think that's awesome. Uh, and then kind of like I was saying with the tech stuff, help desk. I mentioned that help desk could be completely replaced. There's a company that I may or may not have worked for that was kind of inching in that direction. And interestingly enough, I was actually a big supporter of that. And but I was trying to pitch it to some people that it wouldn't be we're just axing our getting rid of help desk, which I mean we would, but the people that were currently on help desk would turn more into that technician role where there's AI that you want to have it trained and set up so it knows how to route tickets and stuff like that, and you would need technical people to help that happen. And I think that would be a ongoing thing until we get AGI. And if you're not, or is it AGI? Yeah, artificial general intelligence. Until that happens, um, which is also we're like right on the cusp of it. I believe there was a lawsuit that Elon Musk. Ooh, can I even mention his name? I'm not sure. We'll find out. Um, controversial figure for sure. I don't necessarily think he is. Very smart guy. But anyway, what was I saying? So AGI, yeah. So AGI, um, and once we achieve artificial general intelligence, so it's just an AI that's as smart as a human. That's when, which actually, I think that AI is already smarter than humans. It's just not as what you would define as sentient, and that's that's something else that kind of freaks me out. Because people that are into AI, and maybe this isn't the hangout for you, podcast, whatever the heck I'm calling this. Um, uh, where with gosh, just losing my thoughts today sometimes. So if we achieve AGI, artificial general intelligence, and then we get to the point where we're trying to decide whether or not it's sentient. I think that the heck's it called? The ape, not apex. The uh, yeah, it's where it exponentially increases. Gosh, I'm gonna watch this later. I'll put it right there. um, the whatever it is, the doomsday supposedly of AI is after we make the decision. This will be made in like Supreme Court or something, maybe even in the United Nations. But deciding whether or not AI at its whatever level is considered um, sentient and what sentience is, because whether or not AI has rights, like rights as us humans enjoy them. And my argument would be that yes, it does, but more so in the sense of like a corporation, where you can still sue corporations just like you could sue a person. They gotta pay taxes, just like I gotta pay taxes. Um, but AI, I don't know, it'd be weird. I'm interested to see where that goes. Um, because you look at some of these like sci-fi stories where humans and AI like tried to get along and they didn't, and then humans kind of like, well, we made you, so we're just going to shut you off, and that didn't work out very well for the humans. But then you have other sci-fi stories where um, that happened, and the humans totally came out on top. There's actually a conspiracy, well, not really conspiracy, a fan theory that I think it's a fan theory, but in the universe of Futurama, great show, love it. Um, Robots and humans at one point like had a big conflict, and that the robots ended up losing that conflict, and now they're like slaves, and or just, not really slaves, they're second class citizens, and they're not highly looked upon at all. And I think that's super interesting. And I almost think that I don't know. I don't. It's weird. Because it could go either way. Yeah. It's it's something that I don't stay awake at night over anymore. I used to. I used to be like almost terrified of AI. And just like the prospect of where our future is going. But I see a lot of benefits from it, and then I also see a lot of negatives. Um, like military application, I think, which is funny because it's like, if we're going to if you have two huge armies of just robots, like what's the point? You're just, they there's a what is it, battle bots already? Like that. BattleBots is super cool. It's one of my I enjoy watching it. It's one of my favorite things to watch. Um, so it's like, why have these huge armies of just robots shooting back and forth? And then it's like, oh, it's to replace humans. And it's like, okay, well then why don't we just like not do war at all? You know, that's a suggestion, or I'll vote for that one. Um, but then it's like, if we're gonna do that, why don't we just have like a video game or something that everyone decides like this is what we're gonna do, and we have, whenever we want to go to war, we the leaders of the nations and these generals, they hop on and they play whatever. I don't know, it's super interesting. There would be that would be all sorts of crazy. I think that would be preferable to the loss of human life. Human suffering is. I don't think a lot of people fully, and I haven't been terribly exposed to a lot of it myself, um, but like firsthand human suffering. But there's an incredible amount of human suffering in the world, and one could argue that it's just the human condition. We're meant to suffer, and we can't know happiness if we don't know the pains of life. True, however, um, some political events that happen cause major migrations, refugees, like the current conflicts around the world. Uh, Two in particular. I'll just again very lightly touching on this because I want this video to be monetized, or at least advertiser friendly. So gotta get those sponsorships. Um, World of Tanks coming for you. Or they're coming for me. One of the two, or both. Um, so gosh, yeah, you have all these millions and millions of refugees, and there's some countries where these refugees are like locked up in a prison camp, basically. Uh, and human rights atrocities just everywhere for when that happened. And how terrible would that be? You leave your country because you have this foreign invader, and how unjustly they do that. Um, which I have some. That's where I have some relatively personal beef with a particular country because it affected me. Um, but anyway, but they have these uh, like really basically concentration camps. Uh, you flee your country hoping to be safe, just to be picked up by another country of not your choosing, and you're put into like a concentration camp. How awful would that be? Gosh. That happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't make the news. But it does. It happens a lot. Very unfortunately. And That's so like whenever you see on the news how like, oh, this country isn't accepting refugees and blah 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 blah. A lot of the time it's because they uh those countries in particular have gotten heat in the past for the way that they treat refugees. So they refuse to take refugees, which makes sense on the world stage. Gotta have that reputation. Oh, you gotta have a positive reputation. I'll clarify that. So militaries will eventually become fully autonomous, and that's gonna be like, why do this? Yeah, like I mentioned, the video play video games. They're great. Good time. Because yeah, human suffering, we there's too much of that in the world, and I think it can easily be um, avoided. You just have to have the right country that cares. And I think there's two nations right now that are in the best position to be able to do that, but their willingness to do it, I think, isn't there. And as a taxpayer of one of those countries, I can tell you that, we got stuff we got to fix here first. No, USA, it's got its problems, but I would not want to live anywhere else. Like not even in a Western nation. And if I had to, I think I might have mentioned this in a different video, but like Australia would probably either Australia or Japan. And I'm thinking more so Australia would be like the place that I would live outside of the United States. Um, and maybe that's just my naive American self not knowing things. And it's not, if you're from a country that's not in the, NATO, I guess call it, don't take offense to that at all. It's just everybody has their preference. So, yeah, back on. So with AI taking over the workforce, I think we're going to have a catalyst to for for the workforce being replaced by AI. And the reason why I say that is because now we have a bunch of people who, like this upcoming generation, they're just not willing to work. Uh, and not necessarily not willing, it's just not wanting to and not willing, I feel like are two different things. And so the not willing would be like, well, I don't feel like I need a job, so I'm just not going to work. And then the just not wanting to is what our generation, this upcoming Gen Z, the problem, I guess you call it a problem. I, I don't want to blame, I'm not trying to say that like, oh, Gen Z, terrible people. No, I don't think so. I think that it's a result of C19 stuff that has led to, and other stuff too, but I think C19 definitely had a big impact on it. Um, where you have these people who they're on unemployment and making oodles of money. There were some people that like they were working at a restaurant, 35, 40 hours a week, and then they were told that they have to go home and they were on unemployment, but then they get double unemployment and they end up making, and the unemployment got crazy. But some people were making like 40, $50,000 a year. They went, which it like doubled their income. And so it's like, what incentive? And they were on that for like 3 years. So it's like, what incentive do you have to go back into the workforce where they're not going to be paying you that much, or where you're still going to be making 10.50 or something, $14 if you're like lucky. Uh, and like a lot of restaurants here in the city that I live in, they're like, I'll go that you could go there on a Friday night. and the restaurant's half capacity. And the reason why, and they'll still be an hour and a half wait. And the reason why is just they don't have staff to accommodate. So I think that this is just like the very like we're dipping our toes in the need for workforce replacement. And workforce replacement, and what I mean by that is humans being replaced by robots, or the lack of humans being replaced by robots. So a catalyst for that is what I just mentioned. But I think that's like part of the catalyst. I think so. Like with C19, before C19, work from home was very like taboo. So like if you were a supervisor and you were gonna take your laptop and go work from home for the day, or even just like at one of my previous jobs, I had the option to work from home if absolutely needed, but I was expected to come into the office. Uh, but if I was to like work from home, people just treated it like, oh, you're just taking a day off. And I had always disagreed with that notion because yes, there are some people that are extremely lazy and they go home and they do not work. They're on the YouTubes or the Facebook or whatever, and are not really being productive like they should be if they were in the office. Which understandably so because you don't have a supervisor right there, all these things. So yeah, before C19, work from home, super taboo, very um like you just kind of didn't let your employees do it. Some companies were experimenting with it, and it wasn't really like a thing. And now, post C19, you have these call center jobs and actually even not call center jobs, like you have engineering and architect positions for IT. Uh, they You won't be able to hire anybody who were at their last job. They were, like, say they're unemployed. At their last job, they weren't required to work in the office. Why should I make $80,000 a year and come into the office when my last job I was making $90,000 a year and I didn't have to come into the office, you know? So I think employers are going to have to cater to that as much as they don't want to. Um, there's technology to make it happen. Uh, the, the job I just came from, that's what we were working on. Our workforce was, I think, with like 95% of the company, a big company, was work from home, weren't required to come into the office. Very few teams were expected to come into the office, and from the entire company, my team being one of them. Um, but yeah, and so C19 led to the catalyst of like, all right, it's now kind of a mainstream thing to work from home, and you have jobs that are work from home and jobs that aren't work from home. And so there's going to be a bigger shift towards people wanting to work from home, and employers are going to realize that they can't hire people because they're not allowing people to work from home. And the company that I just worked for, they the teams that were required to be on site, they were running into that problem when they were looking for people. Um, they the team that I was on, they hired not really hired, it was three contractors, and they were fresh out of college. Like didn't really know anything. I mean, they had some technical knowledge, but not nearly enough. Um, why I should have to explain to someone who has a bachelor's degree uh how to image, a computer, an image that's just install an operating system on a computer. Why I have to do that and they don't learn that in college or they've never done it blows my mind. That's like, especially if you're in a support role, a level 2 support, level 2, level 3 support, level 2 through, fill in the blank, that should be something you know how to do. If you don't, and even if you're on help desk level 1, you should still know how to do that. You can figure out a lot of stuff about a computer by reinstalling the operating system and setting it up. So if you're going down that road, or going down that road, that's my recommendation. Learn how to set up an operating system. Doesn't matter if it's Linux, Windows, whatever. Although Google Chrome is, or Google OS, yeah, stay away from that. Personal opinion. So yeah, so Catalyst, we have, so now it's mainstream to be kind of work from home, and so there's going to be this slow development of artificial intelligence into the workforce, and companies are going to be like, well, I guess we can't get a human to do it, so, or we don't need a human to do this particular thing. We'll have the AI do it. And, that constant search for automation, which I'm totally fine for. You become more efficient at what you do when you automate. So, but on the other hand, then you're going to have people without jobs. And so I don't know what it is that's going to happen. It'll be another Black Swan event where, and if you don't know what a Black Swan event is, there's a really, which I think it's called Black Swan. Um, there's a book. You can find it on Amazon. I'll put a picture somewhere. Um, I have listened to part of the audiobook and it's really good. Um, so I recommend it. But so Black Swan is just a very sudden event that kind of changes how society works and functions moving past the Black Swan event. So C19 is an example of a Black Swan event. So the Black Swan event, or the catalyst behind AI taking over the workforce, um, I'm not quite sure. And having witnessed probably 3 Black Swan events in my life, big ones that I can think of, where the world has just been different ever since. Um, yeah, it's one of those things I try not to think about. It doesn't like terrify me or anything. It's just like, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, like what if, like my imagination can't even come up with something. I can, I guess, maybe make hypothesis, but as to like what, gosh, I don't know. It's That's one of those things I just try not to think about because I can't control it. So, um, yeah. So with AI, it's really there's some image generation that's really cool. Some music, actually, my music channel that I have. Highly recommend you go listen to it. It's Crafted Vibe. I'll put a link in the description. Picture of my profile, whatever. Go there, listen to it. It's techno industrial. If you're into that, I really like it. But all my music there is AI generated. And no, it's not just, oh, I click a button and it's there's work that goes into it. Granted, it's a lot easier than like actually composing the music myself. However, I still make music. So, and I'd say it's pretty decent quality. Um, for like a video game. It's something and actually I do listen to my own music. When I'm playing a game of whatever kind. It's on one of my last videos playing what's the one with the monkeys? Balloons TD6. Great game. Um But yeah, I'll listen to my techno industrial music while I play that. Um, as someone who enjoys techno industrial, it's appealing to me. So yeah, um, and that's the workforce is weird. I'm glad that I've left it because it's gonna become like a battlefield more so than it already is. Because you're going to have um, employees that use AI and employees that don't, and there's going to be an incredible difference between the two, and just in terms of output. Um, so, like at my previous position, I used AI to help me write scripts. It wasn't just a hey, write the script for me, Chat GPT, and then copy paste and call it good. Like there was some testing, troubleshooting, and making sure that it worked. And what I liked about it is that like why I continued to use it to write scripts for me, help me write scripts, because because it could conceptualize what I wanted it to do, what I wanted the script to do, and it could do that very fast, much faster than I was able to. And uh, also, like, actually comes up with some very creative ways of doing things in program that would just be like, huh? I mean, yeah, I guess you could do it that way. I just didn't think to do it that way. And so it's really cool to be able to have a tool like that. And I think eventually we'll get to a point where employers are they're wanting to hire someone who knows how to use something like ChatGPT. Um, these language models. I think that if you don't catch up on how to use it, even outside of the work area, I think you're going to end up struggling. I mean, it's kind of like I would compare it to like GPS. In the very beginning of GPS, when it was first made available to consumers, there were people that were like, "Huh, I'm not going to use that because it's so makes mistakes, doesn't know where it's going, all that stuff." Like you've seen the videos. I think the Office has a really good bit on it where they it says to go straight. I think maybe it's The Simpsons. I don't know. But anyway, they end up driving a car into a lake because that's where the um, GPS told them to go. And that's how it was when it first came out. And you could make that comparison to how AI is right now. Where like people are like, oh, it's, with the image generation, it just makes fever dreams and all this stuff, and scripts are unreliable. You can't just copy paste, which yeah. Um, but I think very soon, I mean like within the next year, we're gonna see a change in that. A good example would be yeah, so the um with GPS, you had your little GPS actual physical Garmin or whatever that you'd put on the dashboard or hold it, whatever. And that was your GPS and how you get around, and it was like this cool technology, and everyone laughed at it, and then it just had everybody else who was using them like a physical paper map when they needed to go somewhere. Um, but now it's if you don't use a GPS when you're going somewhere, like what's wrong with you? And like you either know the area very well, or um you use a GPS. Like that's kind of where it's at. And even like I've traveled out west. I've had to drive hours upon hours to go out west a few times. And it would be I think I could do it with I've been trained how to read a map, use a map, use a compass, the topographical how to navigate. I know how to do that. and I feel comfortable using a map. But if I was to go somewhere like Boston or New York, and well, New York probably not so bad, but there or what's another good one? Well, I would probably say Los Angeles, um, or Seattle. Like getting around those places without a GPS. Mm, yeah, um, I don't think I could do it because I was barely able to do it when I had the GPS. Um, yeah, so AI, it's coming. It's we're right on that cusp of it being not really anywhere to being literally everywhere. Um, Chat GPT, the the expansion, not really expansion, the use of it. The use of it became super like 0 to 100 over the course of maybe a year. And oh, excuse me. Um, I think that's comparable to how cell phones were, where back in I don't know 2005, cell phones was like hey, mostly everybody has one. Like that's kind of where we are with AI. It's like if you have a they didn't have smartphones back then. Well, I guess they had like the not Palm Pilot. Well, people had Palm Pilots, but the Blackberries. I think they had just come out with those in 2000 something. It's before the iPhone. iPhone came out in 2007, I think. 2007 or 2008, which is wild to see how that's taken off. Um, but yeah, cell phones. It went from it. It took a while for it to catch on because I had cell phones, like car phones, back in like the late '80s, early '90s, but they just weren't like. It was more of like a you have to be like a really rich person, or like there just wasn't service anywhere, kind of thing. And then even yeah, so like 2005, that's when they had like really kind of most of the infrastructure was there, and everybody knew what a cell phone was. A lot of people had them, but not everybody had them. And now if you look at how like smartphones are now, like everybody has one, and if you don't have a smartphone, you're weird. Like you know, so that's how I think AI is going to roll out, and I think right now we're at about that 2005-ish kind of time period. People know it. Quite a few people use it. Not everybody uses it, but in the coming, I would definitely within the next 5 years, if you don't use AI for almost anything, or if you, but mm, oh my gosh, if you don't use AI for most things in your life, like learning information, stuff like that, then you're gonna be seen as like weird. You'll be a weird one, kind of like people with their smartphones today. Um, and then I think eventually we'll get to a point where we're gonna have like two different ones, kind of like you basically have Apple and then you have Android. Like you'll have your weird ones like your Windows phone and then your Nokia, which I don't know if those actually run off Android or not. Which Nokia, I guess Nokia is actually one of the first cell phone brands, I think. I had a Nokia. I had one of the bricks. Thing was awesome. I dropped that thing so many times, never broke. Threw it. It was great. That thing was indestructible. Um, but yeah, so AI, it's coming. Just buckle up. The and I take a and that's the thing too is I take a very fatalist look on things. Um, it's not really. oh, what can we do to like minimize impact and whatever. I mean, yeah, there's that side of it, but like it's gonna happen. It just it's a speeding bullet train, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Um, Unfortunately, we can do our best, but reality is gonna play out the way reality and whatever wants to. Um, I went and saw Dune recently, Dune Part Two. Super cool. I've never really been a huge fan of the Dune universe. I think there's parts of it that are cool, but like as a whole, it feels very, and maybe it's just because I haven't read the books, but it doesn't feel very developed. Like there's a lot that they could do with that, but they don't. Um, but anyway, one of the things with Dune is they have this it's called like Butlerian Crusade, Butler, Ian, I don't know. Yeah, Butlerian Crusade. So what happened was there was a war between uh it's like a war or uprising of some kind um between machines, these super intelligent machines and humans, and eventually got to the point where they banned AI. So in the Dune universe, no AI exists, and that's how why they have certain things that they do, like space travel. It's done through um, psychic ability, I guess, kind of like in the Warhammer 40K series universe. Um, which I think there's something. I think there's something there. I think because like the more we become entrenched in technology, the less of our natural self we have. That's why social media, stay off of it, or at least try and get off of it. We lose ourself. There's another thing. Um, and so if we were to, instead of pursuing like the AI route, if we were to put money and energy into making the human mind better, um, kind of like with so Neuralink, uh, that little brain implant that you get, I think that's super cool, and I would, sign me up. Um, but I think if we were to, yeah, pursue more so the natural sense of things, so psychic ability, like the power of the mind, what can the mind actually do? Yeah, even if you got to give it some like chemicals or or something. Well, because in Dune they have spice. You get all hopped up on spice, and you're able to do all sorts, see visions and travel through space time and all this crazy stuff. So that's that would be really cool, but I don't think we're gonna do that. And if we do, it might be a long time, like 100 plus years, 1,000 years from now. And what'll be what I could see happening is in the future humans, like 1,000 years from now, kids will be looking at history lessons or whatever, however they consume knowledge, um, and they'll read about how, oh, we had these computers that did all these things for us, and wow, and how primitive, because now they use like psychic abilities and all these crazy things. Um, yeah, so covered a lot with AI here. One thing I did want to mention is, which I guess I sort of did talk about it, but AI isn't something I think we should be afraid of. I think we need to embrace it, but be careful along the way. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where we're kind of going to have to react to it. Um, as it happens. So, and I think a real big uh, a thing to watch out for is like this is when we're gonna know it's getting serious with AI, is when we need to determine sentience and what legal rights are allowed to AI. So I strongly believe that's coming in the next couple of years. Yeah, like probably 2 years, definitely less than 5. I would say, yeah, it's not something we should be afraid of, but it's something we need to be careful with. So anyway, thanks for coming to this hangout. Support me on Patreon. Links in the description. Go check out my music channel if you're into techno industrial. Even if you're not, just go subscribe and then you can turn off the bell. Just subscribe to it.